how does the religious side interplay? The people that are migrants, whether legal or illegal, refugees, when they come into a country and they have a certain faith that's different from the country they're going to, what happens? What is there friction, or like where do they settle?
I think there can be friction. But I think it depends on the particular context that you're talking about. Very often, migrant groups will have their own churches, they'll have their own sort of religious organizations, religious associations, religious kind of sets of ideas, and will kind of carry them with them. And there's a lot of anthropological work that is done precisely on that, the kind of ways in which, let's say, kind of indigenous religious kind of processes are carried kind of in migration. And there are various kind of case studies. When there are case studies of kind of voodoo in New York, forms of kind of African religion in various parts of South America, North America, but also in Europe, that anthropologists have worked on, looking at how the kind of maintaining of a particular religious outlook among a migrant group can give them a sense of identity, can give them a sense of collectivity, can help them out in their own perception of the ways in which their world is kind of developing. And you get with that, kind of transnational flows of religious ideas and religious experience, religious feeling.
Okay. What are some research questions that you're working on right now that you want to find the answer to? I've been just kind of asking you whatever, but I should have asked you. Tell me what you're working on heavily.
Okay. Currently, I'm working on a project called Pilgrimomics, which is a kind of clumsy portmanteau combination of pilgrimage and economics. And it's a project that I'm working on with a colleague here at Sussex, Raminder Kaur, and some postdoc researchers as well. And it's looking at pilgrimage across 5 different faith groups from the UK, and particularly from the city of Birmingham in the UK, which is a traditionally kind of industrial city that is quite culturally plural, quite multicultural, has representation from a number of different groups who have migrated into the city over the last 150 years or so. So from Irish to Jewish migrants to South Asian migrants, Caribbean migrants, and so on. And we're looking at the links between different faith groups, so Catholic, Hindu, Islamic, Jewish, and Sikh, and their pilgrimage journeys away from Birmingham and to prominent shrines elsewhere in the world. We're interested particularly in the kind of the economic dimension of pilgrimage, and that really is everything from how people are funding their trips to pilgrimage, how people are funding and providing money for shrines, be they in the UK or back in other parts of the world, be that the development of tourist agencies that are there in order to provide the kind of infrastructures for pilgrims, but also then the kind of infrastructures and side economies of pilgrimage sites themselves. So my part of the project is looking at Catholicism. I said I've worked previously in Malta on Catholicism, and I'm looking at migrants from Birmingham to shrines, one in Lourdes in France and one in Santiago de Compostela. The Lourdes side tends to be a place where Catholics go, and it's very, very much associated with kind of healing. So large numbers of what are described as kind of Sikh pilgrims will go each year, accompanied by, kind of able-bodied and so on. Not necessarily in the hope of getting a miraculous cure, although that is a kind of feature of the shrine. But more often than not, it's part of people's spiritual way of coming to terms with their condition and so on. The Santiago pilgrimage is slightly different. That tends to be one where people are kind of walking long distances to get there. It's much less oriented around the destination. It's much more about the journey. And whereas Lourdes you could describe it as being about kind of health and well-being, the Santiago pilgrimage is much more about kind of spirituality and well-being, and is part of that kind of well-being.
You know what would be really challenging for you or anybody physically? And I saw a documentary on Ethiopia, and they have like this church on the top of this mountain.
Yeah,
climb up there to go to church. It's dangerous as heck, it looks like. And then there's another one in a cave. There's like Lalibela, where you go down hundreds of feet into the ground. And, if you were to study pilgrimages in Ethiopia, it seems like even going to church for the day is a pilgrimage in itself, or a journey for a lot of these people. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely interesting. And that, that's not kind of uncommon. And then, part of the walking to Santiago is precisely kind of enacting the kind of difficulty or the challenges of finding your way to get there.